Now let's just have a look through exactly what you'll be doing on the day of the role play in terms of the role play structure, as well as your method as well. So we're going to go through some tips that you can use on the day to hopefully maximize your effectiveness in delivering those role plays.
Okay.
So the first thing that we should consider, of course, is thinking about how you're going to demonstrate your language skills on the day of the OET examination. Remember, of course, you have the clinical communication criteria, but this is an English language test. So therefore, you need to make sure that obviously your fluency skills, your appropriateness of language, your grammatical range and accuracy, and your lexical resource in terms of the vocabulary use are up to scratch on the day. Remember that, of course, you will be a bit nervous. That is totally fine to feel nervous. But you want to make sure that your fluency is key. You're speaking at a nice, natural pace. You're not using hesitations or false starts. You're not breaking down your language. You're not being overtly apologetic to the examiner as well, which I've experienced before. Sorry, I'm not sure if I can do this. I'm sorry if I'm starting. Don't worry about that there. The examiner will try their best for you overall. So that's why it's important for you to make sure that you are doing that.
Definitely. Really good advice there. So that's obviously referring to your speaking skills in general, isn't it? Just like always taking every opportunity, whether it's medical or not, to be practicing your grammar when you speak. Definitely. That's a really good tip. Get a study buddy. Make sure that you are practicing speaking at all times.
All right. So the first thing you'll do in the day, of course, is you will plan for your role play. So you're going to have 3 minutes to look at the case notes, and what you want to do in that time is just take out the essential information. So obviously, what's your role? What is the patient? How old are they? How do they feel? What are their ailments? How are you supposed to express yourself as well?
Definitely. Yeah, so making sure that you're looking at those notes and you have the 3 minutes to do that. So also taking some notes as you're doing it. You're going to have those aspects that you're going to have to cover. You're going to have to find out particular information. So take down some notes on exactly what it is you have to do and highlight some words.
Yeah, because there might be some information that you find is more necessary and areas of questioning you want to go into. For example, they're giving you the condition that they have, and you obviously want to ask more questions about when it started, how they feel, etc. As well as just ask them some general empathetic questions about how they feel about it as well. You want to take this all into consideration when you are doing your role play. So as I said, taking down notes is quite essential so that you obviously are able to organize yourself on the day without having to read through the notes consistently, and therefore taking away from your ability to speak and demonstrate your fluency.
You definitely want to avoid, keeping your eyes on that piece of paper. You want to make sure that you are maintaining eye contact.
Very important.
Eye contact with the interlocutor, who's of course acting as your patient. That is going to go a long way to making them feel comfortable, isn't it? So eye contact is very important. So yeah, that is your preparing. Do you have any other points you would like to make in relation to how the student should prepare? Especially given that you have been an interlocutor for some OET exams before.
I think the students really should just highlight the words that they think are very important, highlight the key terms, and even brainstorm some questions as well. Think about ways that they can ask questions and also answer questions on the day. And think about structure as well. Think about how you can open your conversation, how you can ask your relevant questions, diagnose the condition, offer your treatment options, give some closure, and then hopefully make sure the patient is feeling pretty comfortable with it.
Yeah, and it's really important as you go through it as well to consider the kind of questions that you're going to ask, isn't it? So that you need to make sure that you're asking open-ended questions as well, so that the patient, if you ask lots of closed questions, like, is that okay, or do you understand?
I would start off by asking open-ended questions first, and then obviously hammering in on any information where there may be some gaps in with closed questions at the end. Start off with nice open-ended questions.
Yeah, it makes the person feel more comfortable, like they can, they have to give an answer rather than just yes, no.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into now the actual delivery of your spoken response. Una, what's the first thing that you should do when it's your time to start your 5-minute role play?
So of course you should really give a good opening. You want to make the patient feel really comfortable. So opening the conversation is really important. Like, good morning, good afternoon. You want to have a very friendly delivery. Make your patient feel comfortable.
Remember, this should be exactly like a real medical dialogue in which you are actually dealing with a live patient on the day of a medical examination or a query, for example. So you want to replicate that as much as possible. Yeah. This person is going to feel nervous. They're going to feel maybe a bit scared, upset, or anxious to know what their issue is. So make them feel at ease by good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Mr., Miss, Mrs., etc., and
How are you
smile with it.
today?
How are you today?
Yeah. Positive communication.
And smile as
Yeah.
well, because that obviously makes them feel much warmer.
Yeah. First impressions are really important. So you want to give the first impression that you are here, you're friendly, you're professional, and you're there to help that person.
All right. So then obviously you will do the opening statement. Then the patient or the interlocutor will start giving some information about how they feel. This is now goes into your information gathering stage. So now you need to start asking the relevant questions so that you can find out how the patient feels and exactly what their situation is, and therefore find out ways for you to actually give them some suggestions and treatment options based on that situation. So this is where we recommend that you start off by asking open questions to begin with.
So that will encourage the patient to give more information if you ask those kind of open-ended questions. So that is really important. So that's not yes/no questions, okay? You want to ask open-ended questions in order to really take off your information gathering and satisfy that criteria.
All right. And of course, when the patient is given the information, should you be completely mute and not say anything?
No, of course, give some sort of verbal feedback as well, right?
And what purpose might that have?
So it makes them feel comfortable. It makes them also, it makes them think, okay, this person is actually listening to me, not that they've just like switched off and gone into another planet.
Yeah. So, but is it also important, do you think, just to give constant yes, I see, no?
That could also make the person feel like, oh, right, they're just saying that, they're not actually listening, but perhaps repeat certain sentences that they've said, confirm information, repeat it back to them. Because then they can really be sure that you are actually listening to them.
So
you obviously repeat back what you've said.
So yes, it is essential that you obviously listen to the patient or the interlocutor, give the information as well. So obviously you can give a diagnosis, but also they're probably going to come across as a bit emotional at times. They might obviously show fear about their condition, about maybe the expense of it, about maybe how it's going to affect other people in their lives as well. So it's important then to also respond in an empathetic nature as well.
So give feedback like, really? Oh, that must be difficult.
I understand where you feel. And obviously it's important to change your tone as well. Don't say, I understand how you feel, like a robot. I understand how you feel. Oh, really? I'm sorry to hear that. That must be hard.
Yeah.
Things like that. Because obviously you're being assessed also on your ability to offer responsive empathy as well.
Empathy, very important. Yes, show that you're listening, that you're understanding, and give them feedback in relation to that.
All right, so you've begun your first stage of information gathering. You've diagnosed the condition. Now you obviously want to give your response to the treatment options that the patient may have. So that's why it's important now also to offer it in a nice structured manner. So this is where using sequencing phrases such as firstly, after that, then, next, etc.
Exactly. So you want to make it really nice and clear and easy for your patient to follow.
To understand.
They are not used to these kind of medical conversations. So you want to make it as easy for them, like you say, using your firstly and using sequencing phrases to make sure that they can follow along nicely.
Yeah.
And that's really important with your organization and the structure of your speaking.
Yeah, and it's no harm also just to confirm that they know what you mean as well by asking statements such as if you obviously don't want to ask open questions such as, is that okay? Because they might just say, oh, yes, I understand. But asking open questions about any of the conditions that they may have so that they respond, and therefore you're actually confirming that they understand what you're talking about by getting those words out of the patient's mouth as well. Because a lot of information can be given very, very quickly, and they may, in a real situation, not understand what you mean. So that will improve your ability to give information and respond to information as well.
Very good. So now you're probably coming to the end and you're going to start to close your conversation. So as much as a first impression is really important, also a final impression is important as well. So you want to make sure that you start to repeat information that has perhaps been said throughout that consultation. Is the patient clear on the information? Are they going away knowing exactly if they have steps to take, for example? Are they going away knowing what steps they have to take? Are they confident about the advice that they have been given? Are they now going to be able to put this into practice? So repeating the points that you've made throughout.
Yeah, there's no harm in giving a brief summary at the very end as well, but make it seem very natural as well when you're giving this summary. Not that it's been tacked on, because obviously there's going to be a lot of information that's going to be given in that brief amount of time, but you want to ensure that they go away, as Una said, feeling reassured and comfortable that their ailments will be solved.
Yeah, definitely. So like I said, final impression is also really important with your OET speaking.
So don't forget to obviously close the conversation like you opened it by saying goodbye, wish you well.
Professional, friendly.
Nice, professional and friendly as well, like a real role play, like a real nurse or doctor or pharmacist as well. So the patient has a good closing impression too.